It's been almost 2 years since Twst Wonderland was first released in Japan, and how has time flown by? When I made my first video, we didn't know much about pre-production or what the game would be like. A lot has happened in those 2 years, and I think it's time we return to Twst Wonderland for a more precise look at its history. Twst Wonderland is a mobile adventure rhythm JRPG. The whole project was developed over in Japan, and as of the making of this video, only brought over recently to the US and Canada. Because apparently some game companies still think that region locking is acceptable and not part of the reason Magia Record failed, but alas, that's off topic and a story for someone else to tell. The game's official summary is this. Perhaps there's more to villains than meets the eye. Summoned by a magic mirror to Twst Wonderland, a world altogether unlike your own, you arrive at Night Raven College, a prestigious arcane academy. With nowhere to go, you accept the masked head mage's hospitality and begin searching for a way home. You quickly find that the students of this academy are as talented as they are dysfunctional. Bickering and competition are the perpetual order of the day. Will you be able to work with them and eventually return from whence you came? And what secrets lie within the villainous hearts of these students? In other words, the player takes the role of isekai, snarky, and nonchalant you, who has to play unofficial school therapist and fixer around campus. Here in Twst Wonderland, the Disney villains we know are seen in a different light. They are revered here. So revered, in fact, the school dormitories are modeled after the ideals of these villains. There are also other old-school Disney characters present in Twst Wonderland, but I'm afraid that's spoiler territory for the US Canadian-only players, so I won't divulge who shows up. Twst Wonderland as a basic concept was created sometime before spring 2016. We don't know much about this period, unfortunately. All we know is that Disney Japan and Aniplex, a game publisher as well as a juggernaut in the anime scene, came together prior to this and agreed to work on a game together, and when they did, the only idea they had was that they wanted a mobile game centered around villains. Aniplex reached out to famous mangaka Toboso Yana in spring 2016 to work on the project, who's the one we got most of this information from, if not all. Toboso's previous and most successful work prior to Twst Wonderland was Black Butler, which was actually the very first manga my assistant ever read. Being a huge Disney fan, Toboso happily but nervously accepted and eventually started character drafts in fall 2017. If you haven't read Black Butler, it's dark. It's very dark. And while Disney films can be dark as well, Black Butler as a whole is much more morbid, and to me, this implies Disney and Aniplex wanted to take the game in a more mature direction from the very beginning. Because while Toboso is absolutely capable of writing comedy, Black Butler at its core is a horror story, and I feel that's one of Toboso's strengths as an artist. But with only the theme of villains in place, it was up to Toboso to figure out the rest. Some of her inspirations were Sophia the First, The Descendants, and the MCU. She also watched and rewatched several of the Disney classics during development, and during this time, several ideas were thrown around for the game. Two setting ideas that were discarded were the entertainment industry and the underworld. Although, considering Chapter 5 of the game, I don't think the entertainment industry idea was completely discarded. But ultimately, the school setting was chosen as the staff felt that schools, more or less, have a universal feel to them and are a familiar setting to players. Settings were not the only thing on the chopping block. Toboso states that at one point there were going to be 10 to 15 dorms, but in the end we only had 7. As for what Disney properties were originally going to be twisted into a dorm, we don't know. I hope someday we find out. Another discarded aspect was the school itself. While the team decided on a school setting, originally it was not a magic school per se, but a school focused on villainry. This was a bad idea on several levels that I don't think I need to elaborate on, and it was eventually cut. The game was originally called Villains Gakuin Monogatari, or Villain School Stories in English. Toboso's early drafts, however, had been labeled by her as Twst Wonderland, and Aniplex suggested that instead of Villains Gakuin Monogatari, the game be called Twst Wonderland. Well, the name is technically Disney Twst Wonderland, but I have not heard any fans actually refer to it by the full name unless they're making fun of the way the game is labeled as Disney TW on the English version, as TW is usually read as trigger warning. And for those wondering, the game is just labeled as Twst in the Japanese app, so we can't make that joke for that version. After years of development, it was time to get the world ready for Twist. On March 23, 2019, Twst Wonderland was publicly announced at Anime Japan, an annual anime convention held in Tokyo, Japan. Not much was revealed during this panel, but we did learn about Heart's Lobule, a dorm inspired by Alice in Wonderland, or rather the Queen of Hearts, as well as my assistant's husband, Malleus Draconia, who's in one of the key visuals of the game. From then on until the game's release, information about the game was released gradually. Instead of announcing all the dorms at once, each was announced one by one as well as staff members. Marketing for the game was also intense, from animated ads to just normal subway ads to impersonal promotional events. I should make a note here that although the game was Japan only at this time and showed no interest in getting localized, a steady fanbase grew outside of Japan, myself and my assistant included. There has always been a desire for Twst to get localized, although frankly this isn't a sentiment held by everyone in the overseas fandom. Twst officially released on March 18th, 2020 in Japan, or if you were tech-savvy, globally. And while the initial drop was rather smooth, the Japanese release is unique in that some key characters and features were not available from the beginning. When you first start the game, you're asked to take the hand of another student. However, Diasomnia was not an option, so Malleus, Lilia, Sebek, and Silver couldn't be chosen. Malleus and Sebek's cards were added to the game on April 21st, 2020, followed by Lilia and Silver on May 25th, 2020. The test portion of the game could also not be accessed. It finally went live on April 7th, 2020. Now if you start an account past these dates, or you start the English version, they will both be here from the beginning, although to do tests you will have to finish reading Chapter 1 first. The game was an instant hit, making an estimated $4 million a month. And while I can't confirm if this was the first ever Twst merch, it was late March or early April of that same year when merchandising started. Twst was quickly becoming a cash cow, and with all this new cash, Disney and Aniplex set their sights on new Twst-related projects. In Japan, it's very common for very popular franchises to have anime adaptations, manga adaptations, etc. The franchise won't be just one thing per se. For example, Sailor Moon started as a manga, and then received an anime adaptation, and then a live stage adaptation. A manga adaptation in Twst Wonderland was announced and eventually released on March 18th, 2021. The manga takes the general story of Twst but changes and adds some things. Unique to this version is the protagonist. For the game, the protagonist Yu is never seen and never referred to as any one gender. The manga's protagonist, however, who Ms. Toboso has stated is separate from the game canon, is Enma Yuken, a big boy, a freshman, and overall a very good sun boy. The manga runs in monthly G Fantasy and is written by Hazuki Wakana and drawn by Kobono Sumide. The Disney Ambassador Hotel is one of the hotels in the Tokyo Disneyland Resort and very, very fancy. It has specially themed rooms and every so often special collaboration rooms that ties into another Disney property. The most famous to overseas Disney fans is the Kingdom Hearts themed hotel room. And Twst Wonderland surprisingly received one as well. The stay dates were October 1st to November 29th, but reservations opened around August 20th and sold out fairly quickly. The room is something. As a friend calls it, it looks like a twisted Best Western mixed with a graphic design is my passion sort of decor. Although the room keeps being magic pens is a great idea, but still, it doesn't really look like it's worth $650 a night. Even my rent isn't that high. Remember when I said anime adaptations were big? Given Disney is an animation company, to no one's surprise, the Twst Wonderland anime was announced on October 13th, 2021. The only details we know is that it'll be on Disney+. The rumor going around is that it will be done by Disney Animation. However, I wasn't able to find that confirmed or denied anywhere, so I think it's just a rumor as of now. Although if I'm wrong on that, feel free to let me know and send me a link on Twitter. There is actual animation in the game and in advertisements, but it's done by Troika, so I'd imagine it's either them or Disney Animation making the anime. Fans outside of Japan were curious when this announcement was made and wondering if we would be somehow getting a Twst Wonderland anime but not the actual game, although I think a lot of us felt it would just be exclusive to Japan. December 20th, 2022, 1 p.m. or so, California. I was enjoying some cake in the ballroom with my husband and some of the other inhabitants of the mansion when I received some very frantic messages from my assistant. It was through their key smashing that I learned that not only was Twst getting localized into English, but we would be getting it in a month. To be quite honest, I think a lot of us were shocked. My assistant and I had assumed it would never be brought over, considering one of Aniplex's more recent games, Magia Record, went up in flames after it was localized, although I think that terminology is a bit too gentle when it comes to what actually happened. And, if you want to look at Disney properties, Duffy is huge in Japan but never really caught on in the US, so we assumed it would be Japan only. Now, marketing in Japan for Twst was incredibly intense as I mentioned earlier, but for overseas, it didn't really feel like it. It felt like if you already knew about Twst, you knew it was getting localized, but if you didn't already previously know about the game, you were in the dark. Since the game has come out, that's changed, but still, it was a rather strange experience. Not to mention, it was also strange how this version is not the global version, but it's only available to players in the US and Canada, unless you're tech-savvy. And while I know localization is a risky business, I'm just gonna say that fellow gacha game Genshin Impact released all their servers at once and they're doing incredibly well. Just saying. Let other countries have Twst Wonderland, and I sincerely hope more localizations are being worked on as we speak. I don't know how many people I saw that were sad because this version is US and Canada only. But regardless, the English version released at midnight on January 20th, and while there have been a few hiccups and some people hate the localization, it's been a very enjoyable experience for me. I personally love the localization and think it's incredibly fun and whimsical. Twist is still a new franchise to the Disney brand, and I know that in a year or two, this video will probably be outdated just like my last video was. But I think this will probably be my last overview history video for a while. Perhaps I'll come back to this for the 5th anniversary. And obviously, as a fan, I still want to cover Twist in some ways, but those will be different videos. For now, let's just keep our eyes on Twst Wonderland and wait for the next big development. Thank you everyone for watching this video. I know it's rather long, but I wanted to make this as extensive as possible so my first video on this isn't required viewing. I have some more Twst Wonderland videos coming up in the future, so I hope you subscribe so you can get notified when we upload those. And let me know who your favorite character is. I'm very partial to Kaleem. He reminds me a lot of my son when he was that age. And my assistant is very smitten with Malleus. And with that comment prompt, I will see you all a little later.